recall spending a long weekend together when you all hate each other so much.
We don't hate each other, it's just... sometimes families get complicated.
We used to play a game every year to celebrate what it means to be a Galloway. I've decided to revive our competition one final time. Each one of you will be knocked out one by one.
What are we playing for?
My entire fortune.
Last competition, and then none of us will have to do this ever again.
This year's competition, is it open to all your descendants?
Oh, you are no brother of mine.
I have gone through far too much to let our money go to this garbage family. They hate us.
Enough to kill us?
What happened?
David, we were attacked.
This was not a part of Spencer's plan.
We need to get the hell off the island.
He lost. I was dead. Maybe he or she isn't an outsider. Who are you?
I'm not scared of you.
You should be!
Of course they're the killers. Everyone can see it.
The whole family is after us.
They all hate you. They all know that you'd stop at nothing to win.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. I'm Joe Vanourney. Slasher Flesh and Blood, the fourth installment of the popular horror anthology series, is set to debut on the Shudder streaming service, with the first two episodes dropping Thursday, August 12th, and one subsequent episode dropping each additional Thursday running through the end of September. Today, we are joined by some of the cast and creative team behind Flesh and Blood, and we will dive into it, see if we can get some spoilers, and learn more about what we can expect from this new season. Joining us today, we have the creator and executive producer of Slasher Flesh and Blood, Aaron Martin. Aaron,
hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. We've also got the showrunner, executive producer, Ian Carpenter.
Hey there.
The director, Adam MacDonald. And one of the stars, Paula Brancati, who plays Christy Martin. Everybody, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV.
Thank you. Thanks.
So I finished episode 4 last night. It's an eight episode series. I'm loving it so far. Aaron and Ian, why don't you give everybody a quick summary of what the new season of Slasher is, Flesh and Blood, give people a sense of the story and what they can expect.
Well, I mean, it's really a family reunion gone horribly wrong. It's about a very dysfunctional family who gets together for the father's big announcement, which is going to basically lead them all to fighting each other for his fortune.
And I would add that too, that it revolves around a father played by, of course, David Cronenberg, who has a very sort of strict, harsh set of rules that affect the way he parents and what he expects of his kids. So when he leaves them competing for his fortunes, you can expect the absolute worst for everyone.
It's really survival of the fittest.
And who is the killer?
Aaron Martin.
I was so close.
Aaron, coincidentally, this before I even knew I'd be talking to everybody, I had just pulled my Slasher season 1 Blu-ray from that Scream Factory put out off the shelf about 4 weeks ago, and I had never seen it. I had watched season 1. I have one episode left of the Executioner season. Was Slasher always conceived on day one as a horror anthology series, or when you started the project, was it just like a limited series? We're gonna do these eight episodes, tell a story, and then it's done. How was it originally conceived?
No, it was originally conceived as a horror anthology, and the way that I pitched it or came up with it was trying to mix an Agatha Christie novel with a slasher movie from the 80s. And you can only keep the game going so long. So the fact that we only have 8 episodes is actually perfect, because you can tell beginning, middle, and end and complete every story. And then you get to open yourself up to another chapter each subsequent season.
It's interesting that you bring up Agatha Christie, because that's exactly what I thought when I was watching both the first season and Flesh and Blood. I'm like, oh, this is like 10 Little Indians.
Yeah, I've read every one of her.
Bunch of characters. Each one gets killed off slowly, and it's told over an extended period. So yeah, I did get that reference. Paula, tell everybody about Christy, the character Christy. Who is she, and what role does that character play in the Flesh and Blood story?
Christy has married into the family. She's married to Seamus, son of Spencer, and she really is an outsider in this group, even though she's been part of the family, legally for 10 years. They don't really accept outsiders very well. She operates as sort of eyes in for the audience, I think, and she also has a daughter that she and Seamus have adopted, Afra, who very early on does not warm to her. So she has her own sort of family drama going on while she's there at the cottage. And I think she also, knows how this family gets when they get together. And I think a lot of us can relate to how much our family can, trigger us and knows us really well. So she's anticipating some of that. She's not anticipating all the blood, but she's sort of expecting things to go off the rails a little bit.
Now, you're not a stranger to the franchise. You've appeared in multiple seasons, the Slasher, different roles. Mm-hmm. What is that like as an actress, getting to come back every year and play a different character in a different story, but you still got the same crew working around you? So it's kind of like a family behind the scenes. But
yeah. It's exactly like that. It feels like coming back to school. It feels like first day of school. I get the first day of school jitters, butterflies in my stomach. I buy like a new tracksuit to feel cool, and I come in and I get to work with my friend. It's true. I get to work with my friends who I like so much and who I respect so much. And coming out of a pandemic, this is the first job I was doing as an actor out of the pandemic. So to get to come to work with Aaron and Ian and Adam and this like amazing crew and the cast, it really is dreamy. And to have something written for you it doesn't always happen. And I think to have these guys always come up with characters that are things that I don't often get to play is obviously so flattering and challenging, and all those great things.
Now, Adam, you directed Slasher Flesh and Blood. I have a question as a director coming in, directing this horror project. How intimidating is it when you walk on the set and David Cronenberg, one of the masters of horror, was one of your actors? Do you get paranoid while you're directing? Are you like, oh, this guy's David Cronenberg's over there judging me how I'm directing? What's that process like?
Not at all. It's just another actor. I get more nervous when Aaron Martin shows up on set. No, of course. I was when his name came up, I was like blown away that we could even get him, or he was even in the conversation. And I also thought, I was like, whoever brought it up was brilliant, because it's like you hear the name and then the character Spencer, knowing him at that point,
stroke of genius. It's perfect.
Hear me? Sorry guys, something happened. And then of course, I was very nervous the first day when I first met him, and blocking the scene, but he put me at ease because I could see he was there as an actor, and also that I knew for going in that yes, he's an extremely well known director, he's an icon, he's a legend, but I was like, well, I've been an actor longer than him, so maybe I can add that of value. So at least I have that, So I worked really well with him, and I really enjoyed what he brought. So. Yeah, it was intimidating, but it was within a half a day. It was great. It was fun.
Aaron and Ian, how did David Cronenberg come on board this project? That's a big get. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, the name came up on. We were all going like, okay, well, who could this be? He came up at the top of a few lists, and everyone, as soon as he was there, because of the kind of character he was, you could picture someone who'd come in and be all loud and brutal, and then as soon as we saw his name, and you sort of he has this sort of calm power, right away everyone was like, oh my god, this would be amazing. His casting director is connected to Shaftesbury, the company that produces the show, and they connected us to him. I wrote him a letter where I raved about how important he was for me, talked about Videodrome, the one of my most watched films ever, and the ways in which it informed anything I did. Then we sat down, Adam and I, and had a Skype, which was super exciting for us. You know, we're sitting there going, oh my God, we're going to meet this guy. And he was great and excited about the writing and the part. And it sort of went from there. I think he was really lured in, you know, by the part that Aaron had created, and how different it was from the kinds of things he had ever done. He was the first person on the call sheet for the first time, and it's big. Like, people should not imagine it's just some tiny guest part. It's huge, and it requires a lot of whoever was going to play it, and he crushes it.
Paula, what was it like as an actress getting to work with David Cronenberg? His character's a jerk, right? He's kind of a jerk.
Yes, we could say that.
What was it? What was the experience like working with him as an actor?
It was intimidating for sure. And I think on the first day we were like, do we call him Mr. Cronenberg? What do we do? And he goes by David, and he's so kind and so lovely. And I think knew that we were a little nervous at first, you know, like he loosened me up one day, was like, you have something in your teeth? I'm like, really? He's like, no. And that was it. It was just so sweet. He just knew I was feeling a little nervous. He's lovely. And that scene that's been teased, the one, you know, the big dinner scene where he blows up, and you know, that clip has been released. That was like so incredible to be sitting at that table. That is a big, I mean, you guys know that's scary for an actor, any actor, to get, you know, that long sort of speech. And he was just so cool and wonderful. And of course he was. So it was pretty special, I think, for all of us.
So Aaron and Ian, I'm fascinated with the layers on this show. I'm watching. I've seen the first 4 episodes. I'm watching it in my head while I'm watching it. I'm trying to figure out how it's constructed, what the process was like. Do you start with the concept first, then say, well, this is who the killer is, and then work your way backwards, and then develop, and then come up with characters in order to meet a certain number of kills? Then coming up with the kills, coming up with the twist, coming up with the turn, there's flashbacks in this story. And then there's the contest that the family does. There's different tests that they're doing. What's the process like? Walk me through how it's constructed.
I mean, I think for any mystery, you have to start with the whodunit, and we figure that out early on. And then like we figure out who did it and why they done it, and then you start building off of that. So without obviously giving away who and why, it all goes back to something that happened 20 years ago, as is often the case in the show, where there's some horrible event in the past that we then build off of, and then we started to figure out which characters were involved and how are they involved. And it's really about I mean, I come from a background of doing shows with large characters. I started on Degrassi, which Paula was also on, and Degrassi, we had 30 characters. So I'm used to creating huge backstories and making people their lives, cross and have horrible things in their past or horrible events at a school. And then you just start building on that. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, and I would say you were asking about the kills too. I mean, they're always or almost always seated in character. So once we know them, once we know their crimes and how they connect to everyone else, it really informs the kind of horrible thing, of course, you want to do to someone. Ideally, it has some sort of poetic or ironic sense of justice connected to it, because I feel like that's a big element at times in horror. So it often leads us to some of the crazy kills that happen in the show.
And that's probably after we figure out who the killer is. I don't know why that's happening. We usually then figure out episode by episode who's being murdered, and then we go from there.
Is the way you develop the season the same for all the iterations of Slasher, or was this season developed differently? Or are they all developed similarly?
They're all developed similarly, but this one was had the extra complication of being stuck on one location, one island, and how far and how much we could do within one spot and over a very compressed amount of time. So each season has its own complications. That was this season's, I think, the difference between previous seasons.
Another thing that impresses me about the show is that the long form storytelling. I think the slasher genre was kind of dead. I think Scream, the movie Scream, that exposed the different tropes of the slasher film, kind of put a nail in it. But I think there's, with slasher in particularly, now that I've seen multiple seasons, this is a resurgence, the way that this is developed, because when you're telling a story over the course of 8 episodes, you get to know the characters more. They're more developed, they're more fleshed out. Where before, when you were doing a 90-minute slasher film in the 80s, you had one-dimensional characters. You had the jock and the cheerleader and the pot smoker and the nerd, and that's all that there was to them. But now you've got characters with backstories and motivations, and then as a viewer, when you watch it, you, number one, you care when they die. You're like, you've grown attached to them. You've seen the story over multiple weeks sometimes, so there's been that delay where you're like, oh, what's going to happen next? Speak to that process, the long form storytelling, because I think this is a good thing for the slasher genre.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. You go ahead, Ian. Go on.
I think you're right, and someone recently, like 2 or 3 months recently, was writing about this, about horror teaching people empathy, teaching all of us empathy, and I think you can really feel that in series for a lot of the reasons you're talking about. You fall in love with people. I see fans on the previous seasons, and a number one comment is they didn't deserve that, and that's because they care. But then also you see people, they're watching and they're on episode 3 or 4. And your character last year, Paula, would get this a lot with Violet. They were like, I hope she goes down. I don't want anyone to die, but I really hope she does. And I hope it's awful. And so yeah, I think, as you say, it gives us this sort of richer engagement with the characters. And suddenly, in a genre that's about, ending life or torturing people and all that, you just have that sort of depth of experience. And sorry, Aaron, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say that.
They have one brain. They're so connected.
Yes.
And I just wanted to add that also having one director the whole time is really exciting. On series TV, you often have different directors coming in. This is really rare that you get to shoot 8 episodes, block shooting them over 6 months. That's a very big challenge for anybody. But for us as actors, we get to really lean on Adam, and we get to develop that trust. And I don't think all directors could do it as successfully as he does. It's true. It's like, it's so thrilling. And I think that's a big part of why it feels really cohesive as well.
We're so lucky to have Adam, who's basically doing an 8-hour feature every year for us. It's a monumental, insane task that he does so exceedingly well.
Mm-hmm.
So slasher films.
Try, Aaron.
So slasher films.
Can I add something, Joe? Do you mind if I add something quickly?
Absolutely.
It's just that it is a mountain. It's an Everest for me in many ways. But I got to say, like, when I first saw the first season, I was in the theater with Ian. We saw the premiere of the series in the theater with the cast and crew, and Aaron were there, and Ian and I were like, God, it's great. We'd love to work on a show like that. So it just so happened we ended up working on it. So like, I come at it first as a fan. So I inject that into as well, because I can't do anything I'm not 100% passionate about, and I'm so passionate about the material, and that's what gets me through it. I think this season is no exception. It's my favorite, to be honest. So
slasher films have been around for 40 plus years. There's been hundreds of different kills with the film, all different types. How hard is it, Aaron, Ian? How challenging is it to come up with original kills that have never been seen before? And then as Adam, as a director, what are the challenges of putting those kills to film in a way that's new to viewers, that they say, oh, that's something new that I haven't seen before?
I mean, the kills for us always start with themes, so it's actually a good way maybe for us to avoid stuff that's been seen in other shows or other movies, where we're like, this killer is somebody who did some infidelity against their partner, so how do we find a way to kill them that mirrors that? And then we're at that, so that gives us a starting point, and then we're able to look at the broad scheme of slasher films and try to avoid anything that's been done. Ian, is there anything?
Yeah, and we're fans too, right? So you get inspired and excited about other things other people did, and you sort of like, it opens your brain to the darker places that you might go, and it's it's why we have in the neighborhood we were breaking this story. We're sort of walking around the streets coming up with these kills, and people are looking at us like, because we're walking down the street going, I've always wanted to like pop someone's head with a big sledgehammer, And we had this moment where someone walked by going like, and I probably, Aaron was going like, we could do that. That'd be great. So it's that, it's the fandom and it's the sort of dark place in your head. And what do you add to that, Adam?
And then we always laugh, right? Ian, whenever we come up with something that's truly horrendous, we start laughing about it, and then it makes us look even more psychotic.
With the coffee bean one with the well, they're they're written very graphically. They don't leave much to the imagination. Like they're so well written, and like seeing it, then I start seeing the pictures in my mind, and I'm watching it, and I get like awed as well, because I go, like how are we going to do that in my head? And what I'm so lucky to work with the team that's on board is that that's not really my problem. My problem is I got to say, well, this is what I want to do. This is how far we're going to take it. And they help me figure it out with prosthetics and so in the blood, how much they need to use, because I don't worry about the mechanics of it at first at all. I just go, we're going to go this far. But what we do is when they come in, I do pre-visualizations of the kill. And I always ask, like the camera, I think is like almost like a character on its own. The way I think it's like part of, like, where's the camera going to be? How is it part of this? We're going to see it from an angle we've never seen it before. Or like little things too that Ian and I get excited about, like Violet's kill in season 3. The knife went through the head, and then just at the end, her eye would just drift to the side. It'd be like, so it's little things that we all, like Ian, Aaron, and I, and the actors, there's a beautiful synergy. And like Ian's there with me on set, and some of the kills are so intense and so difficult in some ways, or like pieces that takes all day to do it properly, that Ian's there with me. So I always feel like he's got my back, because those days are so intense for the actors as well, for everybody involved. And also I don't want to drop the ball, right? So we're going to go here. We're going to go all the way here, all the way. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of my mantra, to not just settle ever. And Paula knows that well.
I do know that, but that's why I trust. I know
but it's
never going to move on. Yeah, it's so thrilling.
They're not just, run up and stab, nothing. Like it's very clever, and they tie into the characters always. And they're so satisfying.
Well, and as an actor, it's stuff that you're not doing in real life, hopefully. So we're trusting that it's all feeling real, looking real. And so, yeah, I know that you're never going to move on unless it feels like we're totally in it. So it's so thrilling. It really, like, your heart's racing for real before those days.
These are all practical effects, yes?
90%.
90%. Yeah. Well, that was we talked about it all the time. You're going to feel it. You're going to see it. So.
Yeah, that was an early decision. It's just that we did not want to have CGI kills, because they're not scary. You can always tell when it's CGI. We might beef up a kill with some CGI, but it's never the basis of the kill.
And it affects everyone. And I think, Paula, tell me, I think it affects the actors, because those prosthetics are so real. Like, they are anatomically correct. There's a medical advisor. Everything about it is such a copy of the performer and what's inside them, that it's those days can be really sobering for people, because it's as close as they're going to get to see this person that they probably love by now splayed out and ripped apart and all that.
Yeah, there's a few days this year that felt really, really odd. And I think also your brain, I don't think I realized this in previous seasons, but I think your brain needs a second to catch up to what it's seeing and telling you that it's not real. So the weight of the prosthetic is sobering. And, it really is a testament to our prosthetics team, to Alex and Monica, to our hair makeup team, to Alex and Lauren and those guys. It's like, it's wild what we're able to accomplish. I've gone into certain scenes that I won't spoil and like had to cover my eyes legitimately. So it's sort of like there isn't a lot of acting. Like, if you're really in it, it is truly petrifying.
And I was just say, like, never two are the same. Some are
Totally.
even poetic and
Yes.
beautiful to look at and
That's right.
almost ethereal. And some are just a blunt, forced trauma to the extreme. And some are subtle that can bring tears to your eyes. So
Yeah.
I think that's what excites me about every single kill.
We're about out of time. Before we go, final chance. Anybody want to say who the killer is? No? All right. I guess we'll have to watch. Before we go, I'll leave a good compliment. I was watching the 4 episodes. My wife was in and out of the room. She does not like slasher films. She does not like gore. But I would catch her in the kitchen watching the TV. She was into this. She goes, "This is a really interesting story." And then she'd come over and she'd sit next to me and she'd watch, and then there'd be a kill and she'd like scream and cover her eyes and run out of the room. But then I'd see a couple minutes later, she'd come back, she'd ask a question like, "What just happened?" Oh, and she's back into the story. So she was really into the mystery, and then she'd run out of the room with the gore. But the fact that you're able to tell a story with a mystery that keeps somebody entertained that doesn't like slasher, doesn't like gore, kudos to you. I highly recommend it. I can't wait to see the final 4 episodes and find out who the killer is and how this story unfolds. Slasher Flesh and Blood premieres on Shudder Thursday, August 12th. First 2 episodes drop that day. 1 new episode released every Thursday through the end of September. Aaron, Ian, Adam, Paula, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Joe.
for having us.
Thank you.